How did I, a fitness professional, gain and lose over 100 pounds? Let's talk about it. Hello and welcome to Amanda Widener Wellness. My name's Amanda. I'm so excited to have you here. On this channel, we talk about all things weight loss, weight management, tools like GLP-1s, fitness, nutrition, and everything in between. Today, I want to revisit my story about my current wellness journey. I have talked about it in a previous video, but I've gotten a lot of questions since that video, and I feel like it'd be really great to revisit my story while addressing those questions because they seem to be kind of the same questions over and over again. So I want to make sure that people who are watching my channel and want to know my story are kind of getting the whole picture in one block. So we're going to revisit that story. I'm going to be a lot more detail specific about my current wellness journey over the last little over a year of losing 106 plus pounds. But before I get into it, I do have a disclaimer. I am not a doctor or a healthcare provider. And while I am a personal trainer and group fitness instructor, I am not your personal trainer or group fitness instructor. So please speak with your doctor and wellness team before making any changes to your diet, exercise, or medication regimen. Everything on this channel is based on my personal experiences and opinions. And if you haven't already, I would love for you to like and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to grow it. The quicker that I grow, the more that I can share with you. So that's kind of my goal right here at the top of 2026. So let's get into my story. So yes, if you don't know me already, hello. I'm excited to have you here. If you've been here before, welcome back. As I mentioned, I am a fitness professional. So I am a personal trainer and group fitness instructor. I also work for a fitness brand. I manage their brand ambassador team. I have a bunch of hats that I wear. I help with a strength training, cardio dance fitness part of the format. And I also train people to become fitness instructors for that format. So educating them on fitness and how to teach others to teach fitness classes. So fitness is really important to me. This is not the career I started out with when I left college. I actually worked in banking. So it was a bit of a jump, and I'm going to get into how that happened really quickly before I get into the details of my current journey. And I'm going to answer your questions about things like what my lab said and when I started the medication, because I have added a GLP-1 into my routine, and just kind of answering a lot of the questions I've had over the last few weeks along the way. So let's jump into it. So I am someone who has struggled with my weight my whole life. I remember being as young as 3 and knowing that I was larger than my friends. And it's not that I wasn't fed well. It's not that I wasn't active. In fact, my mom made sure to, she made all of our lunches for school. She cooked a home cooked dinner every day when she got home from work, or my stepdad did for a while. But we always had, chicken and a vegetable and like rice or potatoes or something on our plate. It wasn't in excess. We had treats every now and then, but it wasn't an everyday thing. But I just held on to weight differently than my peers. And that was something I dealt with on and off my whole childhood, into the teen years and going into college. I was super active. I was in figure skating and hockey. I played soccer. I was a very active dancer. I've danced my whole life. When I was like a preteen, I did Taekwondo. I got all the way up to my black belt. I loved that. I biked 2 miles to my practice 3 days a week and then biked 2 miles back. I was always swimming or biking around the neighborhood with my friends or just playing outside in general. Really up until high school, I was outside after school every day that the weather allowed. And for part of my childhood, I lived in Canada, so I was out in the snow, and then we moved to Florida and I was out in the heat, and I was just a very active kid, but I still struggled with my weight. There were moments in my life where I noticed that I would tend to eat and hide food because I would feel guilt about it, but it wasn't extreme compared to what some of my peers were eating, at least what they were telling me they were eating. So that kind of got to be more extreme the older I got, the more into puberty I got. When I went to college, I did end up losing quite a bit of weight. I walked a lot. I was really watching what I ate. I was, salads and chicken and all this stuff, but I was really restricting the foods I ate, and I was doing Weight Watchers at that time. And then I would gain the weight back and I'd lose it again between college and like just after I graduated from university. And so during that time, I probably tried every diet. I did Weight Watchers. I did Atkins, the Mediterranean diet. I tried some sort of soup diet. I did over exercising with Taebo, over exercising with walking. I would go to the gym for too many hours, just working out too much, not eating enough. I was in my 20s and I thought that was the only way that I could look like my peers. And it was not healthy and I do not recommend it. And I have since grown beyond that. So after university, I got a desk job, and as happens to many people in that situation, I put on more weight. And so I worked hard to lose some of that weight, and then I just kind of maintained it at being plus size, but what I consider like a manageable plus size. I'm 5'5". At that time, I was probably around 200 pounds, maybe a little bit over. So that's kind of where I stayed for a long time. I met my husband, we had 2 children, and with each child, I put on more weight. And then one day I was pushing my then 3-year-old, actually no, she would have been about 4 years old, and my infant son in a stroller to go to the playground. And we only lived about 2 blocks from the park, and I had to stop to rest. I couldn't make it 2 blocks. And as somebody who had been active my whole life, that was devastating to me. And so I called my friend. We went to church together, and I told her what happened, and I really felt like I hit rock bottom. And she convinced me to start going to the Y. So we started going to YMCA. She actually would pick me up to make sure that I would go. I started in a gentle yoga class, and she eventually convinced me to take a cardio dance class that I fell in love with. And that's what got me into fitness. So I had been a stay-at-home mom. I got into this dance fitness class. I decided to get certified in it so I could learn the choreography before class, so I would look like an expert. And then I never intended to teach it, but I did end up teaching a class early on because my friend owned a gym, and she was like, please come teach it just until someone else is ready, and then I won't bother you anymore. And once I taught that first class, I was like, no, I have to teach these classes. I love it. And so it was supposed to be a hobby at first, just one class, one day a week. But that led to another class, and that led to becoming a brand ambassador, and that led to getting certified in other formats, becoming more interested in strength training, and then becoming a personal trainer. And so that was kind of like a gradual evolution of my career into fitness. During that time, that was before COVID, and then during the shutdown, I actually did what everybody else did. I wasn't teaching as many classes, even though I was teaching online, but I was drinking wine every day and having an afternoon snack and baking a lot to pass the time. And I put on quite a bit of weight over COVID. And so when I came out in 2021, I was heavier than when, shutdown happened. And then I was more prone to injury because I was overweight, but I was treating my body as if I hadn't gained that weight. And I ended up tearing my meniscus. So this is kind of what led me to where I am today. So I had a meniscus injury. I required surgery for it. I had to sit on the sidelines, not teaching, for several months before I could get the surgery. And then I was to be out for at least 12 weeks after my surgery. My doctor said, you're an athlete, you should recover really quickly from this, but don't go back before 12 weeks. But I was cleared to coach, right? So I could go into one of my strength training classes, not my dance class, and I could tell people how to do the exercises. But I wasn't doing that. I was definitely demonstrating the exercises. So this is a do as I say, not as I do moment. This was the worst decision I could have made for myself, for my body. I pushed myself to get back into it too quickly, and I did not allow my knee to heal the way that it needed to. And so because my knee was not properly healed, I was getting a lot of pain from it. I wasn't able to bend it. It was swelling a lot, things that shouldn't have happened if I had just done what my physician and my physical therapist had told me to do. And so it wasn't recovering well. And I required cortisone injections just to walk around on it. And I still wanted to be back to teaching because that was my passion. And so I was working out on my knee when I should not have been. And so, and looking back, I absolutely will never make that type of mistake again. It set me so far back, and it was absolutely not worth it. Even though I was excited to get back, I should have allowed my body to heal. So if you're ever going through injury recovery, please listen to your physicians. They have your best interest at heart. They're trying to get you back to your lifestyle as quickly as they can, but they want your body to heal so that you don't go through things like I did. So I ended up having to take a steroid medication, and it was supposed to be a short-term thing to allow my body to recover. But instead I ended up on that medication for 3 years. And that caused other issues. I have several autoimmune diseases, and because of everything going on with my body, the weight gain was immense. I put on almost 100 pounds in just a 3-year period. And so I was still very actively teaching. Don't get me wrong. I was still very good at my job, even though I was incredibly obese. I was I was 5'5". I was 284 pounds when I finally got on a scale, and I was still able to lead an intense cardio dance workout class, but it probably wasn't the best thing for my body, because the more weight you carry, the more pressure that puts on your joints, especially when you're lunging or jumping, all of things that I would demonstrate to my participants. So my body was really taking on a lot of impact. And I was at a position where I couldn't even go down the stairs unless I turned sideways and went down one step at a time. So I would go like right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, one stair at a time, like I was 40 years older than I was. So speaking of 40, that brings us to my current journey. So it was a few months before my 40th birthday. I went in for a checkup with my doctor. So I have an endocrinologist for my autoimmune diseases, and I have a general practitioner. They work very closely together. And I was meeting with my endocrinologist for lab work. And up until this point in my life, I had always been healthy, right? Didn't matter that I was obese or overweight. I had always had a clean bill of health. My blood pressure was good. My cholesterol was good. My blood sugars were always good. Now, heart disease and diabetes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol all run on both sides of my family. So it's something I've been concerned about, but I've always gotten a clean bill of health, so I wasn't overly working towards preventing it. I had that young, it's not going to happen to me mindset in a lot of ways, even though I was nervous that I was headed that way. And so I went in for my lab results a few months before my 40th birthday. And for the first time in my life, those results came back not so great. So my blood pressure was normally 110/70, and instead it was reading at 125/80 consistently. I went in for a few appointments, and 125/80 was what they kept getting, which is not crazy high, but it's still high blood pressure. And for someone whose blood pressure was normally slightly lower, it was a warning sign. My LDL levels were higher, not something that I had ever experienced before, and that made me nervous. But the biggest surprise for me was my A1C was at 6.2. And so that made me pre-diabetic, which was a big wake-up call for me, because diabetes has been a major issue on both sides of my family. And I've seen the struggles that my family members have had because of it, and I did not want to walk down that same path. And I didn't want to run the risks of the complications from the disease of especially with my children. Excuse that. So anyway, that was something that kind of set off alarm bells for me, and I knew I needed to make a change. And so I sat down with my doctor and we made a plan. So I started really just focusing on simple things. And this is something that I preach a lot. Don't make 100 changes all at once. I know that a lot of times when we decide we want to make a change, we just kind of like jump in head first and change everything. But that's not maintainable for most people. And I know for me, I have done that multiple times in my life where I have made all these changes and I've lost a large amount of weight. And guess what? I've always gained it back. It's always come back, because it's not maintainable to make these major changes and think that that's going to continue to be a lifestyle for you. It was just never actually maintainable. It was too much too soon. And so the difference this time was, instead of making all these changes, I was kind of like, well, it's November, I'm about to hit the holidays. I'm just going to do one little thing. And so the first thing I did was I just wanted to bring awareness to what I was eating, because I kind of got away from that. I wasn't aware of what I was putting into my body every day. And so I started tracking what I ate after I ate it. And I started putting that into my FitnessPal. And so it really brought awareness, kind of seeing in black and white what I was eating, actually how much I was eating calorie-wise, sugar-wise, fat-wise. And it was definitely not what I thought it was. Those little extra bites I took here and there, the late night binging in the pantry after the kids were in bed, it all added up, and it was definitely putting me into a calorie surplus, which made sense why the weight had gotten up so high and why I was having these additional health risks and consequences because of what I was eating. And so that kind of brought awareness to it. And once I brought awareness to what I was actually consuming, I was more likely to do it less, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm eating all these little extra bites. I'm not going to eat the extra bites. And oh my gosh, I'm eating a lot of butter. Maybe instead of butter, I'll use a little spray of oil, right? Or oh my gosh, we're eating a lot of red meat. I'm going to switch to turkey. So it was little tiny changes there. Once I felt like I had a control over tracking my food after I was consuming it, I started planning my food. And so I would sit down with my FitnessPal and I would say, today I'm going to eat a protein shake and some eggs and cheese for breakfast. And then for lunch, I'm going to have this. And then for dinner, I'll have this. And then I have these for snacks. And I would eat what was in the MyFitnessPal app. I knew I was getting enough calories to do my workouts. And because you can see that, you can set your count up that way to see how many calories you're having and if you're getting enough. But I was still making sure that I was within a deficit. So I did that for a while. And so it was that small little change in the way I was tracking my food and planning my meals that made a big change for me there. And then I kind of rolled into the summer. And so I was a few months in, late spring. So I was a few months into this from November 2024 until May 2026. And I went to my doctor and I said, I've lost 40 pounds in these months, but a lot of it was in the first month. I had lost about 20 pounds the first month, and then it kind of was really slow from there. But it felt hard. It felt harder than losing weight had ever felt in my life. I felt like I was always hungry. I felt like I was in a bad mood. I was exhausted. It was hard for me to teach my classes. And I told my doctor, I was like, this is not maintainable. And I'm terrified of not only gaining this weight that I lost back, but gaining back more, because that's been my history. What can I do to prevent that? And so my healthcare provider suggested trying a GLP-1. And so we decided to go with semaglutide. I looked into my insurance. My insurance does not cover weight loss medications at all. Since I was pre-diabetic, I did not qualify for Ozempic. And so I had to find an alternative option, because name brand was not an option for me, our family. It just was not within our budget, especially something we didn't know was guaranteed to work or not. And so we looked into other options. I actually went with a local doctor's office that is a half med spa, half general practitioner's office. And they use like an actual pharmacy. They show you where the medication comes from. So that was easily traceable. So I felt comfortable using them, and that's where I started. And so I tried semaglutide for 90 days. Not only did I have no side effects, but I don't really think I had any benefits from the medication either. We increased the dosage two times, and even with those increases, I did not notice a change in the rate at which I was losing weight, and I did not notice a change in my appetite or in anything really. So I went to my physician again, and I was like, listen, it's been 90 days, and I feel like I'm just spending a lot of money for no change. This isn't working for me. Do we have any alternatives? And so my physician suggested switching to tirzepatide. And so again, we tried to go through insurance. My insurance still does not cover weight loss medications. I was not diabetic. I was only pre-diabetic, so I did not qualify for any type of coverage. I went back to that clinic, and it was very expensive for the change between semaglutide and tirzepatide. And it was definitely outside of our family's budget for something, again, we weren't sure was going to work. And so I looked into other options. I did a lot of research, and I decided to go with Mochi Health. They were the best option I could find for me at a really affordable rate for my family. And so they were great for me. If you're looking for a compound telehealth provider, Mochi Health might be a great option for you. Please do your research. Find a company that you feel comfortable with. I had a great experience when I worked with Mochi Health. Not only did I have, my endocrinologist and my general practitioner and my experiences with them, as well as all my lab work with them, when I switched to Mochi Health, I had to meet with one of their healthcare providers, and they asked me to send over all of my recent lab work. They connected with my general practitioner and my endocrinologist to get my full medical history. So now I had a team of 3 doctors working together for me. So I did have to make that connection. If I had just signed up for it and not told them in my sign-up information that I was going through this and I had already been on medication and I had doctor's information and lab work, they may not have asked for it. I don't know for sure, but I did let that be known, and it's made a much more comprehensive experience with them for me. And so I've really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for a telehealth provider and you want to give Mochi Health a try, you can use my code to save $40 off the first month. It's in the description below, but it's code UHWKPV, and you just put that in, you'll save $40 off your first month. So I started with them in the summer. I have worked my way up to 15 milligrams of compound tirzepatide through Mochi Health. It comes from, most months I get it from Empower Pharmacy, and I've had a great experience with them. So that started in the summer. When I made the switch to tirzepatide, I almost instantaneously had relief from joint pain. And that was a big one for me because since my knee surgery, my knee had bothered me every single day. I woke up with it aching. I went down the stairs with it aching. I taught my classes and it would be incredibly sore where I'd have to lay down and rest afterwards. So not only was I tired after teaching because of the weight I was carrying around, but my knee was just killing me. If I tried to go for a walk, it was almost impossible. We would go to theme parks with our kids and I would have to stop and rest. Like, it was just not a good experience. And it was mostly in my knee, but I had other joints that ached as well. And when I switched to the tirzepatide, almost immediately that pain went away. So I was able to move better. I had more energy. I took fewer naps. I used to take a nap every day. I no longer need that. Some days I nap just for fun, but I don't need the nap. I am very tired at night, but during the day I'm fine. And one of the other great things that came out of that is since my joint pain was gone, I decided to start walking again. Walking is something I used to do when I was much younger. I loved it. I really enjoy moving my body, but I hadn't been able to do it in years because of joint pain, my knee issues, weight, that sort of thing. And so I started walking, and I started with a 10-minute walk. It was summer. I live in South Carolina. It was very hot, but I found a shaded path to walk on. I could have gone to the track at my local YMCA, but instead I like to be outside. I feel like if I'm walking outside, I'm much more productive with my time. I'm connecting with nature, and it doesn't feel like a task. It feels enjoyable. If I'm on a treadmill or a track, I often find myself counting down the minutes until I'm done. So I'm an outside walking girl. But I started with just 10 minutes, and it was a very slow 10 minutes, and then I moved to 15 minutes, and then 20 minutes, and then I kept building up how much I was walking each day. And then once I got to an hour, I tried to walk a little further within that hour. And so I went from walking a very slow 10 minutes over the summer to now here we are in January, just several months later, about 6 months later, and I walk 3.5 miles almost every single morning. There are days where life lifes and I don't make it for my walk, and I'm kind of grumpy on those days. I won't lie. I love my morning walks. It's a moment for me to kind of clear my head. If I'm teaching that day, it's a great way for me to like mentally prepare for my class. And I kind of separate like my mom moments from like after I drop the kids off at school to the me having to do my job moments later in the day. So I love walking, but that has been a huge transition for me, and just getting those extra steps in and moving my body more was really a lot of the exercise I needed to be in the calorie deficit I needed to lose a lot of this weight. So I didn't need to make huge changes. Just walking was a big one for me. So I did mention side effects. So let's talk about that. Since I started the compound tirzepatide, I have had some side effects. I get that question a lot. What are your side effects? Give me 1 second. Sorry, very thirsty, a lot of talking. So I haven't had a lot of side effects, even with the tirzepatide. When I first started, I had like a mild headache when I would take the injection, but it wasn't anything where like a Tylenol or, some sort of headache medication wouldn't make it go away. And I think that was more about dehydration than anything. I drink a lot of water, but I have noticed that with the medication, I need to drink even more water than I did before. So I have a 40-ounce Stanley. I make sure to fill that up at least 3 times a day, sometimes 4. Plus I drink coffee, and sometimes I'll have like another drink here or there. So I drink a lot of water, but I work out a lot, especially on the days when I'm teaching. I'm really filling up that water jug. So, and I'm a sweater. So even though I'm cold all the time now, which is another side effect I have, I still sweat a lot when I'm working out. So I get very, very sweaty. My shirt is usually soaked. It looks like I jumped in a pool. So I've got to replenish all of that hydration that I've lost from my class. So I had my headaches. Like I mentioned, I'm cold all the time now, which is new for me. I used to always be hot. I would be sweating all the time, just sitting in a chair. If it was slightly warm, I would be drenched in sweat. If I went for a walk, I would be super, super sweaty and gross. And I live in the South. It's hot and muggy here. It was not pleasant to always be running hot. But now I'm always cold, especially my fingers. So I have to wear, heavier sweatshirts, but I will take that trade-off to be healthier if it means that I've got to just wear an extra layer. The only other side effect I've really had that was like a negative side effect was constipation. And so that, again, is something that I've never dealt with before in my life. I have some autoimmune diseases that have caused the opposite problem, but I've never, ever had to deal with that before. And so I did have to work with my healthcare provider to find some sort of relief. And so I take a magnesium supplement, and that's it. That helps it, and I'm A-okay. So I know I've been very lucky. The most common side effects of GLP-1s are gastrointestinal with diarrhea, constipation, nausea, vomiting. I've only had mild constipation, and it's treatable with a gummy vitamin or a gummy supplement. And I know that that's not the case for many other people. But I am also someone who is not really, I don't normally respond to medication. So if I have to take a medication, a lot of times I'll need a higher dose than most people. That's why I'm on 15 milligrams, and I probably need to be on a higher dose, but it's not approved yet. So that is just going to be my struggle. Some people are very responsive to this medication, and very small doses make them feel very sick. And that's why it's important that you work closely with your doctor to titrate or increase your dosage, because if you have a lot of side effects, you may want to slow down that titration process so that your body can adjust better. I did not have that issue. But now here I am several months later, and I'm in a bit of a plateau, and it feels like when I needed to titrate up, but there's nowhere for me to go. So I just have to hold out and do the right things nutrition wise, and move my body. And I know eventually I'll break out of the plateau, but it is a little frustrating because my body kind of doesn't respond to medication the way that it does for other people. So what are some of my positive side effects? Joint pain is gone, as I mentioned. I'm less fatigued, so I don't need those naps. I sleep better. So I know some people talk about having disturbed sleep on GLP-1 medications. So I don't know if it's a medication or the weight loss, but I sleep better. When I fall asleep, I don't wake up as much at night, and I wake up feeling much more rested, which is wonderful. We should really be striving, especially as women, but just in general, adults should be striving for between 7 and 9 hours of sleep at night. I'm lucky to get 6 to 7 hours of sleep at night. But at least what I am getting is very, very restful. And then on the weekends, if it's a slow weekend, I do get that extra hour in at night. It makes a big difference. And then let's talk about food noise. I do have less food noise, but it's not completely gone for me. So for some people, food noise disappears with this medication. And food noise is like that unstoppable urge to go find food, right? It tells you must go eat this, eat this, eat this, and it won't leave you alone until you do, right? And that sometimes food noise would drive me to go to the grocery store and get the ingredients for whatever it was that was in the back of my mind, because I couldn't stop thinking about it until I consumed it. It was very, very overpowering in my brain. And I didn't realize I struggled with that until it lessened. But it's still there for me, unfortunately. And for many people, it goes away completely, and that's wonderful. But that has not been my experience. So mine has lessened to the point where I can pause and say, I don't need that, and I can kind of fight it a little bit better. But it's still there a little bit. I do kind of wake up some days feeling like I need to go eat this, that, or the other. I just have certain pulls. And so those things have not gone away completely for me, but they have become much more manageable, which is something I really love for this. I have a tendency to binge eat at night. I like to go into the pantry, and I can undo a day's worth of, healthy, positive food choices in a matter of minutes. And this medication helps me stop that, which is the biggest positive for me at all overall. That was something that it didn't seem to matter how much I white knuckled trying to get control of my weight and my wellness over the course of my life. I could not fight those urges at night to go into the pantry. I just couldn't. And my body would trick me into thinking that I was just ravenous, even though there was no reason for me to be hungry. And so since I've been on this medication, I don't have those ravenous nighttime feelings anymore. I might be like, oh, I'm a little hungry. Let me go get a rice cake with some peanut butter, or some pudding with a little bit of Cool Whip, or a banana, right? Like, it's something smaller. It tells my brain you're not hungry anymore, and I can go to bed and I'm fine. And that has been a game changer for me with regaining control of my wellness. So that was definitely a positive side effect for me. So after I kind of got on the medication, I started walking again. My next big change was to focus on protein and fiber. So I became a little bit more intentional with the way that I was planning my meals, how I was meal prepping, and kind of how I was tracking as well using my MyFitnessPal app. So then once I felt like I had control over making sure I was getting protein and fiber with all of my meals, I added resistance weight training back into my routine. Getting in the weight room was something I used to do years ago, but I hated it. But I noticed that I was losing weight, and with my weight loss, I was losing a little bit more muscle definition that I had even when I was much more overweight when I was obese. And I wanted to combat that. So I decided to get back in the weight room and really make sure that I was lifting weights regularly. And so I got in around the end of August, and I've been consistently lifting. I started at 2 days a week. I'd go in after class for about 30 minutes. Now I'm doing it 3 to 4 days a week. And I have not only helped combat some of that muscle loss that I was noticing, but I think that I've actually put on quite a bit of muscle. I don't use like a Hume scale or like a body pod. I've never done a DEXA scan, so I don't have the numbers, but like the definition is very clear. You can see it in pictures and videos, and people have complimented me in person. So we're noticing a difference in my body composition in just a few months. And so that's kind of where I am right now. I reached my 1 year mark of my wellness journey in November of 2025. I was about 100 pounds down at that time. And now here I am in January 2026. I'm down 106 pounds. You know, my weight went up and down a little bit over the holidays. And then right after the holidays, the week of New Year's, we were on vacation. I ate all the things. I enjoyed it. And so now I'm just getting back into my routine. I had gained a couple of pounds. Now I'm back to that 106 down. So I am not worried about my holiday fluctuations. That's part of life. And that's the goal of this whole thing, is to make sure that wellness and making good food choices and being active is something that I can maintain forever. I don't want this to be a diet where when I go on vacation and I eat something, I'm like, oh my gosh, well, I ruined it all. I'm just going to just eat whatever I want from now on. I've already done that. It doesn't work. So what I want is to be able to go on vacation and live my life and come back and just get back into my routine. And so that is my main focus for 2026. Well, I would still love to lose maybe another dress size. Maybe we'll see. I want to put on a little bit more muscle, especially in my glutes. I've lost a lot of definition in my glutes. I want to build that back in 2026. But my goal is really more the mental changes that I have to make to maintain this forever. So the first year I was really in weight loss mode. How can I lose the weight? How can I get this off? And now that I have lost a significant amount of weight, and I'm comfortable with where I am, even if I never lost another pound, what can I do to keep myself here forever? Would I like to lose a little bit more? Sure. If I don't lose any more, I'm okay with that because I am so much more healthy. I just had blood panels done again in November. My, let me give you my numbers. My A1C was down to 5.1, so I'm no longer considered, and that happened twice, so I'm no longer considered pre-diabetic. My LDL was under 100, and my blood pressure is consistently back to 100/70. So my numbers are where they were when I was healthy years ago. And as a 40-year-old woman, that is what I would like to see continue. I want to be healthy. It doesn't matter if I'm smaller than I am now. I need to make changes to stay where I am now so that I can be healthy for my children for a very, very, very long time. And so that's my focus in 2026, is getting to a place where this becomes maintenance, even if I don't get to like this imaginary number or this imaginary size that we're all striving for, right? I don't really have one, but everyone has one. You know what I'm saying? I might say I want to be a size 6, even though I'm a size 8 right now. If I don't reach a size 6, I'm okay with that, because who would have thought a year ago that I would get into a size 8? Not me. I didn't think this was going to happen. So what do I need to do now to maintain this and make it something that is achievable long-term forever? Because as I've said in other videos, wellness is a marathon, not a race, and it has absolutely no ending. There is not a finish line here. You might get to that weight loss number, but you have to keep going beyond that in order to keep this lifestyle, to keep your health forever. And so that's my focus in 2026. I'm past the weight loss. I'm looking more towards, once I hit maintenance, what can I do to keep this going, to just live a really happy, healthy, wellness-fueled life. I also have gotten a lot of questions about some non-scale victories, and I talked about that in another video, but I'll mention some of my non-scale victories. The biggest one is my knee pain being gone, and then sleeping better, of course. Eating better for me was a big one, but also getting my family to eat better. It's no longer like, oh, I've got to make sure I'm eating fiber. Oh, I've got to make sure I'm eating protein. It's, I want to eat that. I choose that over other things. I am actively much more interested in eating some grilled chicken with some roasted vegetables and maybe like a sweet potato over a lasagna, which is also not something I would have thought I would choose a year ago. So that is a huge deal for me, and it's a great non-scale victory. It means my body is getting better nutrients so that I can be stronger and healthier longer. Going through my closet and getting rid of all of my, 2X, 3X, size 20, 24, 22, 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, all of those sizes, getting rid of them was a big deal for me. I remember sitting on a mountain of clothes in my closet and just breaking down crying. And my husband came in and was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Nothing fits. I don't have any clothes." And he was like, "This is what you wanted. Why are you so sad?" But it was more of I never actually thought it would happen. And so I didn't buy new clothes as I was losing weight. And I didn't really see how much I had lost until I started trying all those clothes on and realized everything was a tent. And it was this very real moment for me to sit on top of all these clothes and realize these didn't fit me and I never wanted them to again. And so I made a lot of donations to Goodwill and the women's shelter, and I moved on from there. And so that was a big deal. I recently had to start going through some clothes again because now my size larges are too big for me. And so that was also exciting. Buying Christmas pajamas for my family and getting my daughter, my son, and myself all the same size was very weird, but cool. They were actually a little big on my kids, but they like their stuff big. That's the style now. I bought these Comfrt sweatsuits. I have like this one, and then I have like a purple crew neck one. I actually bought this blue one for my daughter because she likes stuff oversized, but it was too big for her. And so I took it, and it's oversized on me. That was a huge non-scale victory. And so I bought her the same set, so now we match, which was something I never thought I would experience, would be, sharing clothes with my daughter or wearing the same size as her or being able to swap things like that. A year ago, that would have never even been something on my radar because it just wasn't possible. She's young and active, and she doesn't have the same struggles that I do. And so I just never thought it would ever happen to be a mom who can share clothes with their daughter. I wasn't never a daughter who could share clothes with their mom because my mom was always small. And so to actually have this happening in my life is just an amazing blessing. So I'm excited about that. Another one was going on vacation without panicking. I got to go on an airplane without worrying if the seat would buckle, or who was sitting next to me, or if I was going to be like a sweaty mess. None of that happened. I got to go to theme parks and eat what I wanted, and I didn't have to worry about feeling guilty for enjoying my meal because when I got full, I stopped eating it. I got to go on roller coasters and never once have to worry about if I was going to be asked to leave the roller coaster. Have I ever been escorted off a roller coaster? No, I usually try the test seats out first. There have been some in the past that I didn't fit in. But there was a close call with the Velocicoaster at Universal Studios Islands of Adventure about 2 years ago, where they were like pushing down on it to make it fit me. And it was mortifying. It was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. And I didn't have that concern this year. I went on the roller coaster with my family. No big deal at all. So those were all huge non-scale victories. And then over the holidays, I gained a couple pounds and I didn't panic. I was just like, it'll come off. That's never happened before for me. So that was a huge non-scale victory. Just having that mental mindset change without really setting out a goal to change it. It happened naturally over time, has been such a blessing. It's the biggest non-scale victory for me personally. I've been a huge, victim of diet culture, and to be kind of moving beyond that and set that example for my children is a big, big deal to me. More energy for teaching my classes and just playing with my kids and being a good mom, having that energy, setting these really good, dietary examples for my kids to, make good nutritious choices, protein first, but you can have anything you want in moderation, is just such a healthier way to raise my children. And I don't feel like I'm having to hide things from them. I used to buy food and hide it so that they wouldn't see me eating the bad foods because I wanted them to have a healthier relationship with food than I did. And now we all have a healthy relationship with food. Now my children, who were very picky eaters, are much more likely to eat what I'm cooking for my family because they've seen me try these new foods and they've become more willing to try it too. And so them seeing me make these changes has been really influential on them in a positive way. And of course, food planning and our meal planning and budgeting has been a big non-scale victory for my family as well. The medication that I take is not cheap by any means, even with a compounding version. And so anything we can do to help our family budget is beneficial. And by planning out our meals and setting this is what we're going to eat, this is what we're going to get, these are the groceries, we're not going outside of that, has been really, really helpful to our family. not only stay on track so that we're not going to get fast food a couple nights a week when we forgot to plan dinner or we forgot to get groceries, but it's also helped our budget so that we feel a lot more, in a place where it's okay to continue getting the medication that I so desperately need for my health. So those are all huge non-scale victories for me. I kind of already mentioned my goals for 2026. Those are mostly my physical ones, right? I want to keep walking. I'm going to try to lift a little bit heavier. I really want to grow my glutes, build that more muscle. Not a ton, but I do want to build a little bit more. I would love to be able to put on a sports bra and leggings at the gym and be confident in that. Right now, I usually wear an oversized shirt. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but that's a goal. We'll see if it happens. I do have some loose skin, especially on my arms. That makes me very self-conscious, so we'll see. I know I don't need to be self-conscious about it. I still wear tank tops, but I can't help but feel a little self-conscious, especially in the weight room versus in the group fitness room, probably because I'm just more comfortable in the group fitness room than the weight room in general. When I'm personally working out. If I'm with a client, I'm very comfortable in the weight room, but when I am doing my own workouts, I'm just like you, I get nervous too. I do want to read more. I used to read a lot, and this past year I was really hyper-focused on weight loss, and so that was kind of the content I was consuming, and it was less about reading and more about listening to podcasts and YouTube and learning as much as I could about wellness and nutrition and getting inspiration from others. And so I want to get back to reading just a little bit more, still doing what I've been doing, just kind of swapping out a little bit each day so that I can do both. And then I mentioned in another video, I want to go back to making sure that I am getting one-on-one time. So like dates with each of my children independently and with my husband. That is, I feel like I am much more in control of my life in many ways. And one of them is my personal life. I feel like I can be a much better mom and wife now that I don't have so much food noise going on. I'm not as depressed as I was before. I'm just mentally in a much better place. And so I really want to invest some of that space in my mind for the people I care about and love the most. And so that's a big goal for me this year. My kids aren't getting any younger, and so I want that one-on-one time, but it's also important for me to prioritize my husband. And I just really like spending time with him. He's a fun guy. So, so long story short, that was kind of what I've been through. So you don't need to make major changes all at once. You don't need to work out for hours a day. You don't need to limit what you're eating. Make small adjustments. Let them become a habit first and then make another change. That's what has worked for me. That's what has made this accessible and achievable over time. I liken it to standing at the bottom of a mountain, right? And you're looking up at that crest at the top, and it looks like you have so far to go. You'll never reach the top, right? But if you start making small steps forward, eventually you will get up there. And it might feel like at times you pause to catch your breath and you look up again and it looks like that crest has gotten further away from you, right? That's like you're trying to lose weight and you've lost some weight and you're like, oh man, I lost 20 pounds. I feel so good. But oh my gosh, I still have 80 to go. That seems so far away. I remember I've been there. That's when I met with my doctor, right? But just keep making those changes, keep moving forward. Those small changes add up over time. And if you allow yourself the time to have those small changes accumulate, you will see a big change at the end of time. So once you crest over that mountain and you go down and you're looking back, you're going to be able to take a step back and realize, oh my gosh, I remember when I started walking. I remember when I started adding in more water. I remember when I focused on protein. I remember when I started going to the weight room. And it all accumulated down at the bottom of that hill, and it doesn't seem so overwhelming at the end of it, right? And that was me at my 1 year mark. I took a pause to kind of think about all of these little changes that I had made. And that's what inspired me to start this channel. Was I was thinking about all these small changes and I was like, man, it wasn't that bad. But it really added up to me losing 100 pounds in a year because I didn't let myself stop. But if I had, because it felt overwhelming, I wouldn't be where I am today. So don't force yourself to jump in these wellness waters, head first and trying to change everything about your lifestyle, because I've done that before and it never lasts. It's not manageable. But if you make those small changes and make them a habit over time, you can add in another one and make that a habit. And then your lifestyle changes in a really positive way that feels easier than anything you've done before. And that's really the best thing that I can help you with. And that's going to help you get into maintenance and maintain this wellness lifestyle for the rest of your life, which is the goal here, right? It is the rest of your life. hit a goal of losing a certain amount of weight or getting to a certain size, and then you go back to the way you were living before, because that is a disaster waiting to happen. You need to make these small changes so that they feel achievable, they feel like something that you can maintain forever, and then you keep going with them forever and ever so that you can be healthy and happy and maintain where you are once you do reach that goal. Okay, so I digress. That was a lot. So just make sure that you start small, make one change, whether that's tracking your food, or maybe you are going to meal plan, or maybe you're just going to start a GLP-1 and the best thing you can do is just take your shot, right? Focus on one thing at a time. You don't need to do all three of them, just one thing. Pick one and start there. And once that becomes comfortable for you, then pick one more thing and add that in. So thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope you found it at least a little bit helpful, informative, interesting, at the very least. Please share what you're doing in the comments below to help you move your wellness journey forward. And if you have any questions or anything else that you would like to share, put it in the comments too. I love to hear from y'all. And thank you so much. I hope that if you haven't already, you will like and subscribe so that you don't miss my next video. Thanks again, and bye-bye.